In this video, I will give you 5 reasons why I believe that oil tanker stocks are a great buy right now and will be outperforming the general market over the next year. These are only my thoughts and not financial advice, so please do your own research as well. So oil tankers are large ships that carry oil and deliver it from oil-producing nations to other countries in need of covering their energy consumption. Reason number 1, increased global oil demand. So obviously, demand for oil is absolutely crucial for the success of oil tankers. After all, oil is a commodity that they carry. The higher oil demand there is, the more work there is available for the tankers and the more money they're able to make. Global oil demand has been increasing steadily in 2022. The demand for oil fell a lot during the last 2 years because of the virus and the lockdowns. Now we're actually getting close to pre-pandemic levels again, and it's expected to be back to those levels in 2023. This is because countries are loosening up on pandemic restrictions and the lockdowns. People can move more freely again, they can travel and do different activities, and of course industrial production has come back as well. As the global activity picks up, so does oil demand, as oil is necessary for things such as jet fuel and gasoline. A very important country for the global oil demand is China. It's a big economy with a lot of industry and manufacturing. As you may know, China is still doing strict COVID policies and lockdowns. Luckily, their industry and demand for oil has still been recovering through 2022 and is expected to continue into 2023, which will continue the positive trend for increasing oil demand globally. Once China is done with their lockdowns, oil demand will increase even further. Another reason that oil demand has increased in 2022 is the Ukraine war, after Russia attacked Ukraine in February 2022. This caused the oil and fuel price to spike a lot and has led to many countries releasing their oil reserves in order to calm down the price. Germany and the US are examples of this. This oil has to be bought back at some point to fill up the reserves again. This will increase the demand even further. The whole Russia-Ukraine situation also has a much more important relevance to the whole oil tanker case than just this, and I will cover this later in the video, so please stay tuned for that. Reason number 2, long time of underinvesting in oil tankers. As I just explained, the demand for oil is increasing, which means the demand for oil tankers is increasing as well. But what is very important to understand is that the actual number of ships, the actual fleet of oil tankers on a global scale, has not increased in recent years. That is because it's been a big underinvestment in oil tankers for quite some time now. This started back in 2014, 2015, when there also was low demand for oil and the oil price fell sharply. In recent years, we have seen renewable energy getting a large focus, and more people are talking about replacing fossil fuels with clean and renewable energy. This is obviously bad for the oil demand and therefore also has made a lot of shipping companies more cautious about ordering new ships. But really a big thing here is of course the pandemic and the lockdowns. As I just explained, when the pandemic came, the whole world shut down and there was no demand for oil. This also resulted in no demand for the oil tankers delivering the oil as well. So during these years, the oil tankers were losing a lot of money because no one had any use for them or the oil they carried. Because of this, no one wanted to invest in new ships. I mean, why would you? Why would you order a ship delivering something that there was no demand for? Most oil tanker companies focused on surviving during the pandemic. So during this time, barely any new ships came into the market, except for a few that had been ordered before the whole pandemic started. Now, not only did very few ships enter the market during this time, but many ships were also scrapped, meaning they were removed from the actual active fleet. This usually happens when a ship gets too old. When a ship is more than 15 years old, it becomes more expensive to service and its profitability goes down. Old ships are usually also less eco-friendly, meaning that the demand for them and the rates that they can get is lower than on new ships. Many old ships were therefore scrapped because the steel that they were run out of was worth more than the actual ship itself, and it gave the shipping companies at least some kind of cash to survive during the pandemic. Because of this, there's been a very low investment in new oil tankers in the last years, and the fleet has barely grown at all. The number of active ships today is almost the same as back in 2019. Reason number 3, no fleet growth for the next 2 to 3 years. This point is closely tied to what I just explained in point 2. So not only has the fleet of oil tankers barely grown in recent years, but it will also barely grown at all for the next 2 to 3 years. This is because the oil tanker order book versus fleet now stands at only 4.4%, which is the lowest on record by a wide margin. What this means is that you look at the order book of new ships coming into the market and compare it to active ships currently in the market right now. As I just said, that number is at its lowest point it has ever been, because no one ordered new ships during the pandemic, like I just explained. This means that not only have we had several years with very few ships entering the market, but this situation will continue for at least another 2 or 3 years when new orders are starting to come in again. Of course, the orders have been increasing recently as shipping companies are seeing that the demand for oil tankers is returning. But it takes 2 to 3 years to build such a ship. So these new orders that are ordered today won't hit the market until 2024 or 2025. Meaning that this situation with low fleet growth will continue for the next 2 to 3 years. So let me just recap for you what I've been saying in the first 3 points. So firstly, we've gone from a situation where oil demand was very low during the pandemic to now demand suddenly returning in 2022 because of lockdowns being over and the world opening up again. This demand has transferred over to the oil tankers. They were completely dead during the pandemic, but suddenly the market has now flipped, and that's basically the first part of this. Oil demand and tankers are back. The second part is the low order book and the low growth in the global oil tanker fleet. So now we have a situation where demand for oil is picking up again and normalizing, but no new oil tanker ships are entering the market, and the fleet is not growing at all and won't grow for the next 2 to 3 years because of underinvestments in the sector. So we have a very special situation here where oil demand is going to continue increasing, but the oil tanker fleet will not grow with it. It will stay the same. This is one of the main reasons I believe that oil tanker stocks are a great investment right now. Reason number 4, sanctions and ban on Russian oil. So what I already explained in points 1 to 3 make a pretty good case for oil tankers if you ask me, but there is even more to this. We need to go back to the whole Russia-Ukraine situation, as I believe it is the most important reason why oil tankers could be heading into a super cycle. After Russia attacked Ukraine in February 2022, a lot of European countries stopped taking Russian oil and gas. The EU placed many sanctions on Russian energy, meaning a big part of the European market for Russian oil disappeared. A country such as Germany, who imported a lot of oil and gas from Russia, now had to look elsewhere. Therefore, the oil that usually traveled from Russia to Europe, which was not a very long trip, now had to go somewhere else. A lot of Russian oil is now going to Asia and Latin America. This is way further away than Europe, so the time it takes to deliver this oil from Russia to these places is a lot longer, meaning that the ships delivering the oil are busy for a lot longer as well. This again results in less available ships in the spot market, increasing the delivery rates and the ship's earnings. The shipping companies are therefore making a lot more money now because of the whole situation explained in points 1 to 3, and this situation being amplified by the whole Russia-Ukraine situation. This situation will be even further impacted when the EU bans Russian oil on the 5th of December. Since we're currently only talking about sanctions, Russian oil exports to Europe has still remained quite high, since not all countries are following the sanctions. However, from the 5th of December, EU ban on Russian oil will be in effect. This will make the European countries still taking Russian oil have to stop this, making even more ships having to travel further to deliver the oil, as the European market will almost disappear completely when it comes to Russian oil. Again, this will make the ships stay busy for longer on the long routes. Less ships are then available for deliveries, and the rates will go up significantly. It's also worth mentioning that we're going into winter time, which is usually when oil demand picks up even further, because the northern hemisphere needs energy to stay warm. This will amplify the whole situation I already mentioned. Reason number 5, increasing dividend yield in 2023. Shipping companies are known for paying good dividends when they're in a good cycle, handsomely rewarding their patient investors. Container ship stocks are a good example, where some of them paid 30% dividend yields in 2022. The same can be expected for oil tanker stocks in 2023 and onwards. One company called DHT has already announced that from Q3 2022, they will pay 100% of net profits out in quarterly dividends to its shareholders. Another company called Torm is now at 50% dividend yield for 2023, and that's if the market stays same as it is now. Most companies are expected to have a 30% dividend yield or more in 2023. This means that they will pay back all of your investment in just 2 years through cash dividends alone. This is something a lot of investors are going to appreciate in the tough time in the market we're currently in, with recession looming and many stocks falling. No one knows where the market will go moving forward, but dividends from oil tanker stocks is something you can count on for sure going into 2023. So that's my case for the oil tankers and why I believe they will be a great buy right now. I will quickly summarize the 5 points again. Number 1, increased oil demand. Number 2, long time of underinvesting in oil tankers. Number 3, no fleet growth for the next 2 to 3 years. Number 4, incoming EU ban on Russian oil. And number 5, increased dividend yield in 2023 and onwards. So you might ask, what could go wrong? I'm not going to go into detail on this, but I'm going to mention a few points. One thing is obviously slowing oil demand. If oil demand starts slowing again, that's obviously bad for the oil tankers. This could happen if lockdown comes back. If a country like China starts treating the lockdowns even more seriously again, that's obviously going to be bad for the oil demand. Another thing is if there's a major recession that really slows down industrial production, that could also be bad for the oil demand. But either way, the world needs energy. Another reason is if EU doesn't ban Russian oil, or they go back on the oil because they figure they need it to survive the winter. If this happens, of course, this will be bad as well. I still think the case is very good, and I still think that in such a scenario, we'd still see an upside in the oil tankers, but obviously the upside isn't as big as if the ban stands as it is now. So that's it. If you liked the video, please like it and leave a thumbs up. If you have any questions or suggestions, please leave comments. And if you want to see more of this, please consider subscribing to my channel. There will be coming more videos like this. Have a great day.